Welcome back to the Comments Show, one and all. It is I, Oliver from Rugby League, in my opinion, joined today to answer all of your questions by Cooper. How are you today, man?
Yeah, I'm good. Good and bad. Obviously, I was just talking to you off air about getting put into lockdown today. That's nothing you haven't kind of been dealing with for the past, I don't know how long Sydney's been in lockdown, but it feels like months at this point. So, yeah, we just got put into a week lockdown. Whether it gets extended, who knows, but a week for now. But, yeah, there's people out there, like people in Sydney, who have it a lot worse. We only have one case up here, so we should be right.
Yeah, just quickly before we get started with the main question today, which will be the title of the video, which is, has Tom Trbojevic had a better season than Jared Hayne in 2009 and Ben Barba in 2012? Tell us a little bit about your Eels. They
Yep.
seem like they're on the down a bit. I know you've been
Yeah.
vocal about them
Yeah.
to me. So just give your thoughts on what's currently happening right now, because, yeah, it's not looking great at the moment.
No, it kind of happens every year at this point. I mean, I've kind of come to expect it this year. I mean, for the first part, it did feel different, but maybe I kind of thought we are doing a lot better than what we were considering. I mean, I don't think like the only team we've beaten that's been above us was Melbourne, and that was in round 2. And Melbourne were kind of just getting their gears together, and we wouldn't beat Melbourne nowadays. So I don't know. We're pretty much done. Like, we weren't going to do anything in the finals, and Reid Marnie getting injured just pretty much. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if we get knocked out first week, pretty much. I don't think we win any games for the rest of the season. Maybe the Cowboys, or we probably will beat the Cowboys. And then after that, I don't know. But honestly, I'm kind of sick of it at this point. And look, I've stuck with BA for a very long time. And like, he's got us through a lot of bad times with the club, but kind of got to start questioning it. And although I do like BA, I'd like a premiership a lot more. So who knows? Shane Flanagan, maybe come to my club, please. I don't know. We'll see what happens, but not good. Not good for Parramatta.
Yeah, so for the rest of the season, what you guys have got, Melbourne, I don't know which weeks in particular. I know you guys have got the Cowboys, Melbourne, Penrith's the last round.
We have Manly next Saturday.
Oh, man.
They'll probably beat us by 40, honestly. And then we have the Cowboys, Melbourne, Penrith. And Penrith are going to have their full side pretty much, besides Toto back. So, not good.
Yeah, not good at all. Well, yeah, you'd have, Cleary be back by then, definitely.
Yep.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, it's not looking too good for the Eels. But anyway, other than that, we should probably put you out of your misery a bit and not talk about this and talk about, well, the man who's probably going to score 20 of the 40 points that you bring up, Tom Trbojevic. Has Tom Trbojevic's 2021 been better than Jared Hayne's 2009 and Ben Barba's 2012? Now, I know you've gotten the stats up, so I'll let you get to the stats in a minute. Well, for it to be better, all he really needs to do is win a premiership, because those two players both won the Dalian medal, both got to the grand final, and they lost to the Melbourne Storm. So could you imagine if it's Manly v Melbourne in the grand final and they lose?
It very well could
Maybe
be.
it's a curse. Yeah. It could be a curse of, if you play for any team that's not Melbourne and one of your players just has a freakish season, you're not going to win the grand final because Melbourne are going to beat you. That might be the common theme coming from this. I think so. It's been a while since the freakish seasons of Hayne and Barba. The big difference is, obviously, Tommy has those highlight plays in him, but for Hayne and Barba, it was just freakish highlight performances every week. They just do crazy things in games. And with Tom Trbojevic, he's it's more, I think it's better in the sense that he's having a more practical impact in terms of getting those try assists, scoring tries as well. You'll obviously have the stats to be able to prove or disprove that in a moment. But I just feel like Tommy's just looked a bit better than those guys throughout the whole season. And we can't forget as well, I would say, well, on paper, that Bulldog side of 2012 is probably better than the current Manly side, I would say.
Yeah.
The Parramatta side, well, it's a weird one, that Parramatta side, because I think it was a pretty good side. They were
good
a
side.
pretty good side, and they shouldn't have finished 8th. They shouldn't have had to claw their way into the finals. For me, they had a good enough roster to finish a bit above that, but they sort of just kicked into gear towards the end of the season. It was off the back of Jared Hayne.
Yeah.
So overall, I think I've got to say yes in terms of individual performance, but it's not really going to be unanimously agreed on unless Trbojevic. Well, first, he's still got to win the Dally M medal. I had a look at the Dally M rankings today from round 12, and Nathan Cleary was surprisingly about 5 or 6 points ahead of Tom Trbojevic. Now, Turbo may have caught up to that now. I'd assume that he's in the lead, but it'll probably only be by a couple of points. I think he will win it too.
Yeah.
But, it is unlikely but possible if Nathan Cleary comes back within the next couple of weeks. He'd have to get 3 points every week.
Yeah.
He could just jag it. It's unlikely, but first time he's got to win the Dally M medal. He'll do that. And then it all comes down to whether Manly can win the grand final. And it would be fitting if it was against Melbourne because Hayne and Barba both lost their grand finals to Melbourne as well. So I know you've got the stats there, Coot. Let us know what they say.
I couldn't find the exact stats. So obviously Tom Trbojevic is having his season this year, so I can just go onto the Manly website or NRL.com and they're just there. But surprisingly, I thought I'd be able to find them easy enough, but can't really find Ben Barba's and Hayne's exact stats. Like it has their tries and that, but doesn't have their average run meters and stuff. So I don't know if you know a website, but I can kind of just say what I can see here. So Barba in 2012 had 22 tries in 27 appearances, 88 points in total, and his team had a 74% win record. The win record's kind of like it doesn't really mean much. And then Hainsey in 2009 had 14 tries, 57 total points, 15 wins, 10 losses, which equals up to a 57.69 win record. Actually, I saved something on Instagram the other day, and it had Hainsey v Turbo stats. I'll quickly get it up. But without looking at that real quick, I'd probably say that Tom Trbojevic has had a better overall season so far. I'd say Hainsey's little stint that he had where he went crazy for about 8 weeks. Because a lot of people forget that. And I'm a massive Haynes... Oh, probably shouldn't get into that. As a player, I'm a massive Hainsey fan. So I would usually barrack for him, but I'd probably say Turbo's had the better season, but the form run Hainsey had was better, if that makes sense. So I'll quickly find this photo. I think Hello Sport posted it. Shouldn't be too far down.
Well, just while you're looking for that, I should mention as well that in Jacob's question, he actually added in James Tedesco 2019 as well, which I thought was interesting. And I remember at the time thinking he was having a season up there with those guys. And I still think he's in the conversation, but I didn't really want to overload the question too much. And Hayne 09 and Barba 2012 are the two that most people compare to the current Dally M medal winner. So I thought I'd go with those guys. But interesting that James Tedesco 2019 is brought up, but I think Turbo... I still overall think that James Tedesco is the best fullback in the NRL. Still what he's currently doing, still an amazing player, and just consistency over the past 3 or 4 years. But in terms of this individual season, it's definitely Trbojevic. I think a few months ago we did an episode on Trbojevic v Tedesco, and I don't think my opinion's changed on that, and that was months ago. Where Trbojevic has been the best fullback this year in terms of the form fullback this year, and James Tedesco overall, probably over the past 5 years, has consistently been the best fullback. Did you end up getting those stats up?
Yep. This was posted on the 23rd of June. Turbo had only had 8 games at this point, and it's comparing Turbo's 8 game stats from 2021 to Hainsey's stats in 2009 from 26 games. So Turbo in the first 8 games has 11 tries, 15 try assists, 13 line breaks, 16 line break assist, average run meters 205 and tackle bus 40. That's definitely gone up. I could probably just check the most recent ones. That probably made more sense. But Hainsey had 14 tries, 19 try assists, 34 line breaks, 11 line break assists, He averaged 180 run meters and had 178 tackle busts. So the tackle busts is crazy, and Hainsey did that in a shorter amount of time. But the reason why I think Turbo season's been better is because he can do it for a longer period of time. So yeah, I'd say Turbo out of the three. I'd probably just give, and Barba was kind of similar to Turbo, but not as good. Barba was for the whole season pretty much. Hainsey, like I've said a million times, was for about 10 games. But yeah, if Turbo can get this side to a grand final, this Manly side. I don't think anyone's beaten Melbourne this year, but if he can go close to beating Melbourne, or if he does, you pretty much have to say it's the best individual season of all time of the player, considering the impact he's had as well. Because Manly were dog crap before he came in. Like, they were statistically having the second worst season start of all time, behind the Cowboys in 2002 or something like that. I remember hearing that a while ago. And then he comes in and it's a whole new side. So, yeah.
Yeah, well, it's funny you bring up the Cowboys in terms of a poor start to the season, because in 2015, the Cowboys actually lost their first 3 games and went on to win the comp. Now, I believe that is the record for the poorest start to a season for a premiership winner, and Manly have equaled that. Some people have forgotten that Manly actually won their first game of the year the week before Tommy came back. They just beat the Warriors. I think you might remember. I think it was 13-12, that field goal.
I had sorry to cut you off and gamble responsibly, everyone, but I had a multi which was paying 500 to 1. And it was a bunch of other it was a bunch of things, not just this game, but every single one of my legs got up, except I had the Warriors 1-12, and Manly got us by 1 point. So yeah, I missed out on about $500 because of DCA's field goal, but yeah, that's all right.
So Cooper definitely remembers that game.
Yeah, I do. I was screaming.
Yeah, but other than that, I think we both agree that Turbo's probably had a better season than both of those players. But if he wants to cement it with the majority of fans, he's got to win the Dalian medal. It's not clear cut yet. He's still actually got to be given the thing, and he also has to win the comp. We go to our second question now from Ethan Macy, who asks, which old club would you bring back? Now, with my answer here, it's interesting because I'm actually going to refer to the question that Ethan asked last week, that some of you will remember. How would the game look today if the Super League war never happened? Actually, last week, it was our main question, our big one at the start. Our title question, if you will. I think I would bring back the Western Reds, and I won't go too much into it because we've done a couple of expansion videos before, one big one this year. Well, not video, sorry, it was a podcast over on the podcast feed. If you want to check that out, Rugby League in My Opinion podcast. I think it was NRL expansion candidates or something. You'll find it.
Yep.
And we spoke about which of the Brisbane clubs we wanted to come in, but I think we also echoed how we would personally go with a Perth-based team or a Western Australia-based team. And it's for that reason I'd bring back the Western Reds. Now, the reason I'm referring to your question from last week, Ethan, how would the game look today if the Super League war never happened? Well, it's not to say that these clubs would still be here today. They likely would, but obviously it's such a long period of time, we can't know for sure. But a big reason as to why your Adelaide Rams, your Western Reds, South Queensland Crushers ended up being booted from the competition or no longer having the funds to play in the competition is due to the Super League war.
Yep.
Now, if that never happened, it is likely that the Western Reds, we can assume, based on most of the clubs sort of surviving that coal and how much money they were making before the Super League war, it is likely the Western Reds would still be in the competition today, if not for that. So I guess that's kind of an answer to what Ethan was saying last week. But yeah, personally, I'd go to the Western Reds. We have come close on one occasion at the end of 2019, in particular, to the North Sydney Bears actually coming back.
I feel like they're always in the discussion. I feel like every year they get brought up at some point.
Yeah, well, the Penn family, who own Manly, and look, they've not even tried to hide this, financially, into not necessarily salary cap or anything. Well, they have actually been in talks apparently with Daly Cherry Evans to restructure his contract due to cap restraints. But in terms of finances and that, they are not doing the best. And to the point where if the season last year, when there were talks of it being cancelled entirely, if the season had been cancelled entirely, Manly would have folded. That's how it was looking. And I think his name's, it's not Sean Penn, he's the actor. Whatever the main guy's name is from the Penn family came out and said, we need to get this season going, otherwise we're done. And yeah, a couple of years ago, I think they were looking to sell the club, and one of the bidders was the consortium who owns the North Sydney Bears. Now, if they'd gotten in, it's not to say, even if they did end up buying the Seagulls, it's not to say North Sydney would instantly come in because of licensing agreements and stuff like that. And that North Sydney consortium would need to get permission from the NRL to change the name from Manly Ringer Seagulls to North Sydney Bears.
Yep.
We came as close as I think we ever will to that happening, unless we get a Central Coast / North Sydney Bears side based on the Central Coast that ends up taking some games to North Sydney. But I've always been of the opinion that, okay, sure, it could work having a Central Coast based team, but it's not a priority. Which realistically, I don't think the second Brisbane team is either. But it's. And there's no real financial incentive, I guess, where there is with a Brisbane-based side. So unless we get a sort of a team in Perth, possibly a second New Zealand-based team, although there's not much going for that either personally, unless it's a second Auckland-based team.
Yeah.
Possibly even PNG. There's a bit more benefit. Maybe a PNG Darwin team that they've been thinking of. All that before you get to the Central Coast. I mean, it'll be nice. They'd have a nice fan base, whatever, but there's no real incentive for the NRL to do it.
Yep.
What's your take on all this, Coop? And if you had to pick a club to bring back, who would you bring?
Well, yeah, you make a good point about the Reds. That'd probably make the most sense. And they're not like officially, it wouldn't be really bringing them back. It'd kind of just be because obviously they merged with St. George, but my old man had a few ties with the Steelers back in the day. When he used to play, he was with the club for a while. Didn't actually debut in first grade, but was training with them for a while, and was looking on par 2, and then got injured or whatever. I feel like everyone has my dad could have made it story, but he was a really good footballer, and he was with the Steelers at the time. They picked him up, and Dad's a South fan, and he makes no you know it, but he's still got a soft spot for the Steelers. They won't come back, obviously. The St. George Illawarra Dragons now. But, I'd probably bring back the Steelers. But the Reds or even the Rams would probably make the most sense if you were going to bring anyone back.
Your Steelers story actually brings up another potential answer, which, again, wouldn't happen. But I was thinking, how would, somehow the St. George Dragons come back or the Illawarra Steelers? And I was thinking, essentially at the moment, right, and it comes back to licensing as to why they can't actually do it. The West Tigers today are basically the Western Suburbs Magpies.
Yep.
Balmain have gone broke.
Yeah.
It's basically, there's either one Balmain representative on the board at the Tigers now, or there's none. It used to be 2 from the Magpies, 2 from Balmain, and 1 neutral. And I believe now, because, the Balmain side of things gone broke.
Yeah.
But the Magpies are sustainable, obviously, because they're still running. So technically, the West Tigers are basically the Western Suburbs Magpies at the moment.
Yeah.
And again, the only reason why they probably can't go back to being the Western Suburbs Magpies is due to licensing, etc. And also, it'd be a bad business decision because the Tigers as a brand now got a solid fan base. They've got 2 fan bases. You're completely alienating still probably about half of them.
Yeah.
And also add on to that Tigers fans who have since become West Tigers fans, born in 2000 when they came into the comp and have grown up as West Tigers fans. You're probably alienating them a bit as well. So it'll never happen. But, I mean, technically, actually not no, because they're still the West Tigers, but one could say essentially we're watching the Western Suburbs Magpies run around every week.
Yeah.
Of course, the Magpies ended up being based out of Campbelltown. They can't really play at Lidcombe Oval anymore. I'm not sure if you've ever seen Lidcombe or whatever. We go past it on the train whenever I'm going into the city or to Parramatta from Penrith. But no, it's just after Parramatta. Sorry, you leave Parramatta Station, you go past Lidcombe Oval before you get to Auburn. But it's essentially like just a normal oval with a gate around it, and there's a bike track around the inside, and it's like if a high school had a really good stadium. Put it that way.
Yeah, I'm looking at it now.
Yeah. Well, sorry, not stadium, but like a footy. You know how some high schools or whatever, the better footy high schools usually have a bit of a done up ground.
Yeah.
That's sort of Lidcombe, which is not really an insult because there's no first grade play there anymore. The New South Wales Cup team still takes games there, which I think is cool. And they're on Massey Cup. But yeah, so they'd never be able to return to Lidcombe. But a possibility is, and I think the Tigers probably should do it, going off the topic a bit here, but Campbelltown has a strong junior base. Personally, I would base the Tigers out of Campbelltown. I know they already play some games there, but like not even Bankwest. Sorry, Leichhardt. I mean, Leichhardt can get its 1-2 games a year. And sorry, ANZ, but I think basically you play 98% of Tigers home games at Campbelltown and base them out of there.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's just another thing. But yeah, one could say that the Western Suburbs Magpies are currently running around because the Tigers are now behind face value. They are now pretty much the Western Suburbs Magpies. Look, other than that, the Western Reds, for reasons that we go into detail in that podcast if you want to check it out from a few months back. I guess we could chuck the South Queensland Crushers in there as well because they were essentially the second Brisbane-based team, and we're getting another second Brisbane-based team coming into the competition. Now it's looking like 2024 due to the new COVID situation. But yeah, other than that, overarching, if I had to give one answer, it's the Western Reds for me. How about you?
Yeah, Illawarra Steelers for me.
Alrighty, well, other than that, guys, we might finish this one up. If you have any questions that you would like to be featured on the show next week, please comment below. Get in contact on Instagram, DM, Facebook DM, or we put the weekly sticker up 24 hours before the show each week. I think a couple of people have gotten in contact and said, I was going to ask a question, but I missed out on the sticker. It was too late. You guys are already recorded. Doesn't matter. You don't just have to stick to the sticker.
Yeah.
You can get in contact in any of those ways. You can comment below. You can comment a question tonight and we'll answer it next week. Don't need to worry about it. But yeah, that's just when we put the main sticker up so people know that the show is happening soon and to get their questions in. But other than that, as I said, I'm going to repeat it. Get in contact with Rugby League, in my opinion, on Instagram. Get in contact with the Facebook page. Comment on this video. Or if it comes to it, wait for the question sticker to come up probably next Sunday night. Other than that, guys, I've been Oliver from Rugby League, in my opinion. Great show today, Coop.
Yeah.
And we will see you guys next Monday.